Hey, what's going on, guys? Battle Nations Emperor here, back today with another video. And today, guys, we have the final episode of the Boss Strike series. Yes, unfortunately, we've been doing 5 per episode, and we are on the last 6. Unfortunately, the Boss Strikes did not end with an even 5. They came very close, but was one off, with the final Boss Strike being Boss Strike 21. I didn't want to make this one 5 and then do just one last episode for one Boss Strike by itself, so I decided to do all 6 for this one, the final recap of all Boss Strikes. Right in this video, it's going to wrap up our series here. Tomorrow, we're going to have some more Battle Nations gameplay, along with the better mic. Unfortunately, last mic, the one I'm using for my phone right now, no problem on phone. However, when you switch it over to laptop, it gets janky, and unfortunately, I didn't notice that until after I'd gotten it through the editor and already had it uploaded to YouTube, and I was just kind of like, shoot. So, do have a new microphone. It's going to be much better tomorrow, so if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing to the channel if you are new, and drop a like down below if you like today's finale on the Boss Strike series. And without any further ado, let's jump right into the last 6 Boss Strikes of Battle Nations. And starting us off at Boss Strike number 16, we have the Assault of the Sovereign Forces, led by the Sovereign Navy. While led by the Sovereign Navy, it also had Reef Bandits in it, had some Sea Raiders. Basically, every enemy introduced from the naval update was also included here. The purpose of this Boss Strike was just to introduce a naval aspect to the Boss Strikes. Of course, before this, all Boss Strikes had been land-based because for the majority of Battle Nations' existence, naval didn't exist. But a few months ago, before this Boss Strike, they had introduced Navy. We're getting everybody accustomed to it, so they decided to throw in a naval Boss Strike for everybody to try out and get into. Now, thankfully, not everything was naval. You had to be level 25 or higher to access the naval waves. This was mainly just due to difficulty. This wasn't trying to shun new players out of the experience, simply because those lower players, especially if they weren't in good clans and had air units to supplement their navy, it was hard. It was genuinely rough. So completely understandable why they did it then, and even then at level 25 and above, it wasn't all naval units. It was the chance of a naval wave, with every other wave being still land like a regular Boss Strike, just because again it was so hard to build up a genuine navy. But completely understandable, and glad that they did cap it so no younger players had to deal with that. First, let's get into a little bit of the promotional artwork for what the Sovereign Navy looked like. The Sovereign Navy is looking for a fight, land and sea. Ready all your troops. Here's another splash shot of it. And here's it without text. Beautiful. And just like previously in one of the Boss Strikes we covered before with the attack drone was considered a weaker airplane, so they decided to give you 2 of them to make it worth your while. They did the same thing here, and also just because everybody's navies was so weak, they realized that, and they gave you not 1, not 2, but 3 naval troopers. And he was nothing to write home about, but he was a relatively strong naval unit, especially if you didn't have a navy like most people did. He was a huge start to your early on navy, so definitely appreciated there. But they didn't stop there. The mini sub, which was already good on its own, they decided to give you 2 of them. Yes, 2 mini subs. And again, the mini sub was not bad at all. It was a very powerful submarine, and if you had nothing else, perfect. You could complete battles with it. It was great, and they gave you 2 of them. Fantastic here. And then of course finally tier 10 was the Minesweeper, which we'll get into a little bit. But before jumping into him, let's cover the promotional unit, the MK1. Now they did something pretty special with this guy. So this is the MK1, however they also had another version called the MK2, and you got the MK2, which was just this guy but the land version. He's on sea. The MK2 was gotten for free by training 2 of these guys. To put in a little bit better wording, here's the official promotional art, and I'll just read straight from it. Auto MK1, take the plunge with a heavy armored and devastating Astro Diving Trooper. Bonus, purchase true MK1 units and get 1 MK2 unit for free. The MK2 Atomic is designed for land combat. Again, he's the exact same troop, exact same stats, exact same tax, just with all of it on land instead of being submerged underwater for sea battle, as you can see right here from this promotional. And it was limited all the way up to 6. So after the purchase of 6 MK1s, where you would get 3 MK2 Atomics for free, that was the limit. And by all means, I knew some people who blew past that 6 limit, not trying to get more MK2s for land, but just trying to make a navy. And a lot of people in my guild just had pure navies of MK1s because, you know, they had nanopods to blow in Battle Nations, but they just did not have a navy. So when this came out, they were like, okay, a naval unit I can buy, you know, that's semi-decent. So they just blew nanopods and would have an entire army of these guys. Not bad at all, especially if you had nothing else to do. And let's just quickly look over what the artwork for him looked like. So as you can see at the top right there, you can see the enemy front-facing sprite and your friendly back-facing sprite. And then below you can see early concept work on him. Me personally, I'm kind of glad they ended with the top, as I feel the top looks more Battle Nations-esque, if you will. It looks more like it would fit into the game. The bottom isn't bad by all. It looks very creative, in fact. It just feels more Big Daddy Bioshock themed, if you will, for me. I'm getting more of that kind of vibe. The top definitely looks like it was Battle Nations, so I'm glad they ended up going with the final form that they did. This is what he would look like in the front of Water Submerged, and this would be what he would look like fighting for you from the back. I just had to throw this in here. I thought this was hilarious. Morgan, as soon as you complete the training, will for your first MK trooper, will give you some XP for completing a mission, and then will say the, I think, amazing line, "Free stuff is the best kind of stuff." Poetic and very fitting to Morgan's character. And here, of course, were the 3 Boss Strike Limited Edition exclusive units. These were the Naval Troop. Again, you got 3 of him. The mini sub, you got 2 of them. And then the Minesweeper Destroyer. You only got 1 of it, but it was certainly worth it. Literally being one of the best naval units in the game at the time. It was basically just a beefed up destroyer, which was already good. And this guy could take out entire enemies by himself. You could just drop him down. And in some of the earlier missions for Navy, he could just sweep by himself. An amazing unit. And if you had the fortune to be in a good enough clan that could get tier 10 in a naval boss strike, you were rewarded with this bad boy, and he was certainly worth it. So moving straight on to Boss Strike 17, we have another attack of Shro. Shro, they used her so freaking much. This is her 4th Boss Strike, and not even her last. But again, as it says, the return of Shro, and this time she is teaming up with the Sovereign Navy and Reef Bandits, so there were also naval battles in this one, just like the last one. They decided to do a cold damage over time element to all land units, so if you had any land units on the battlefield, they would take damage over time from the cold. The first non-special, I put that in quotations because, you know, I mean, it's the first boss strike since Infected, or anything special like that, if you will. The first boss strike to award 4 promotional units instead of 1. So this is some promotional artwork for Shro. The Silver Wolf and Navy threat is looming. Prepare for the cold. And you can see they just used one of her previous promo shots, but added some frost effect to it. And this is what the outspread looked like. As you can see, tier 3, you got the Tri-Winged Terror. Tier 5, you got 1 mini-sub, not like the previous where you were able to get 2, only 1 this time. Tier 7, a Hellfire F-51. And then tier 10 was the T-16 Aerobike, which was an incredible mix. He was kind of like the Aero Jetpacker, and he was very powerful, but also just really cool. And this was the promotional unit, the Snow Crusher, I believe is how you say it. Yeah, the Snow Crusher. For a second I thought it was a Snowplower, but no, it is indeed the Snow Crusher. This is what he looked like, and this was his promotional art. There's nowhere they can hide. My goodness, the puns. Freeze enemies with double cannon attacks, immune to cold damage, strong defense against piercing. So as you can imagine, they're gearing him to be perfect for this particular boss strike. And then available in your vehicle factory for 70 nanopods. A very cool looking unit, and also it's got that nice Silver Wolf blue. So not only is it useful for the boss strike, but it matches its theme. Very cool. Here's a shot of it from the back, and here's a shot of it from the front. And going into the 4 promotional units: the Tri-Wing of Terror, the mini-sub, the F-51, and the Aerobike. And fun thing to note about this Aerobike is it was not classified as a air unit, but also it had properties, as in some attacks and some benefits to its defense. So it was a very unique hybrid, if you will. It could definitely, I would consider it more of a ground unit than anything, but it did have elements of both, which made it a very interesting unit. And a lot of people were excited because it gave new hope and revitalized interest in boss strikes of what they could be, and possibly of what could be of the future. Unfortunately, we now know that that was kind of just, false hope, if you will, from the community, but it was a fun and exciting concept at the time. Moving on to Boss Strike 18, we have the return of Ludwig. I'm sorry, I called him Ludwig. Ludlow. Sergeant Ludlow's Revenge, Boss Strike 18. He introduced a damage over time effect called Quake. Quake was basically an earthquake. It was just a never-ending earthquake that deals damage to all ground units on the battlefield. And worst of all, it was scaled to the player's level. So it would do lower damage for lower level players, but if you were max level, it did max damage. So it was basically a constant burn for everybody that nobody could get over. A very tough status effect, because unlike the previous ones, the fire damage over time, the cold damage over time from the previous Shro boss strike, you could get units like the Snow Crusher and other cold immune units that could withstand it, and then you could build your army around that. This Quake, from my understanding, at least how the Wikipedia describes it, not only was it introduced for this, but there was literally no unit that could survive it that was on the ground. Air units, of course, wouldn't take it because, obviously, earthquake and they're flying in the air, but all ground units were unfortunately affectable to Quake, and there might be an exception to there. I do apologize if that's the case and I couldn't find it, but from my understanding, not too terribly much could escape the Quake, and again, worst of all, it did scale to your level, so even max players were having to worry about it. There was a fun, well, not fun for the players, I'm sure, who had to deal with it, but a kind of interesting glitch, if you will, on the first day that reset visually everybody's personal progress on the boss strike board. So if you would go in to do the boss strike, it would say that you had no points put up, even if you had put up some points, and it said that your clan, your guild had put up no points. So it would basically show zero progress for you and your guild. Thankfully, this was a glitch, and it wasn't even true at the time, because if you did earn boss points, it would put them towards your personal score and the guild. It just would not show. So it did freak out some people and cause some mass hysteria on the first day, but it was quickly fixed literally day one when it happened with an emergency patch. The promotional unit for this boss strike was called the Anti-Gravital Tank for 70 nanopods. Let's jump right into him, but first, let's get into the promotional artwork for what Ludwig looked like, or Ludlow. Sergeant Ludlow is back with a combat challenge. Prepare your troops for an earthquake. And here is the Anti-Gravital Tank. Here are its stats. And here is its promotional art. Anti-Gravital Tank. When destroyed, a modified jetpack trooper is deployed in its place, which, seriously, I had to pull up this because I didn't realize it showed it in the promotional artwork when I got the screen cap for the promotional artwork, because I just couldn't get over, on death spawn, he spawns an aero jetpack trooper. Like, those guys are powerful on their own, and with this guy you get a anti-gravital tank, which is already a good unit, but then upon its death, it spawns an aero trooper. Absolutely freaking insane. It's also equipped, as it says right down there, with a powerful cannon and rocket attacks, and it is available in the vehicle factory for 75 nanopods. A very good deal, if you ask me, with that spawn on death. Here's some high definition artwork of it front and back. Here's it from the back. And here's an enemy version from the front. And here are the boss strike units that you could earn during this boss strike. Of course, the attack drone, the Cobra. I believe that's the UCH. I could be wrong though. Moving on to boss strike number 19, we have Shro's 5th revenge and her final revenge. The return of Shro for one last all-out assault with her Silver Wolf army against your base. This was Shro's final attack. They used her a huge amount of times. She was by far the most used boss strike protagonist. I don't think any other one hit 3. I think, well, no, I'm sorry, I do, because there were a few who were hit 3. I don't think anybody was used 4 times. Meanwhile, Shro was used 5 times. And it's funny because the Wikipedia, I'm going to quickly move past this for a second. The Wikipedia says she was only used 4 times, and it's described in her personal wiki that she was only used 4 times. But I mean, as you can see right there, it has her boss strike 3, 7, 13, and 17 listed. But She was also in Boss Strike 19. This was her Boss Strike in 19. So I don't think that's anything on the wiki's fault. Probably they just stopped updating it at this point near the end life of the game. And to be completely honest with you, I don't think anybody cared. I think I'm kind of the first person besides a few other die-hard OGs to go on the wiki. So I just don't think it was in their interest to update Shro's profile. But something interesting I just wanted to point out to you guys because I thought it was kind of cool. This was the first Boss Strike back after a 2-month hiatus. So this is the promotional art for Shro's Final Revenge, Revenge of Shro, a boss strike of ice and fire. And this is the statement Battle Nations put out when they came back. So they left, they came back. This is the statement they put out. I'm not going to read all of it out just to kind of save time. If you'd like, you can certainly pause it and read all of it down below. It's a simple, interesting read. And of course, the promotional unit was the mech tank for 70 nanopods. And finally, all Silver Wolf units were reused, unfortunately. There were no new limited edition units. However, they did kind of slightly compensate for that with a double XP during the boss strike. We also got this very cool promotional unit, as you can see, the mech tank. That was him from the front. Here's his promotional splash work. What has 4 legs and blows up blank? I'm sorry, what has 4 legs and blows blank up? I was so focused on not making sure I said blank, filled it in there. This guy. High defense against explosive and fire damage, equipped with a 120mm cannon and rocket launcher to annihilate everything. 70 nanopods available in your vehicle factory. An awesome freaking unit. Wish we had more time with him, because I bet with a little bit of nostalgia built up, he would have become a fan favorite because he was awesome, but we had so little time with him, unfortunately. Here is a different shot of him from the front in promotional artwork released by the Battle Nations team. Here is even more concept art of what he could have looked like. In my opinion, I think the final form definitely came out the best. Here's another shot of him from the front. Here's a shot from him of the back. And here are the 3 promotional units that you could get. The, of course, Crop Duster, the Jammer Signal, which I thought was kind of interesting, and of course the very famous Silver Wolf tank. Moving on to the second to last boss strike, we have Boss Strike 20, and man, this is when we all knew it was kind of over. It was unfortunately over. Boss Strike 20, Yoltzil the Raptor Trainer, the return of Yoltzil and his Raider/Critter army. I put ARM, but that's supposed to be army. Sorry about that. Everybody realized this was the beginning of the end, with a massive 9 previous limited edition units being available in this boss strike. 9. That was unbelievably insane at the time. I couldn't believe it. I had to put some artwork in for you guys to look. I mean, just look at this. Every single tier was a previous limited edition unit, except tier 9, which was still nanopods. And they just went all out. The promotional artwork, as I'm sure you guys probably read, ready your troops for a boss strike. Every tier prize is a unit, and then they put in parentheses, except tier 9, but that doesn't sound as cool. And I think that was just so players could have, free nanopods if they still felt the need to have them. This reintroduced boosted damage for all fire attacks and all fire damage over time. There was no promotional unit, unfortunately. I don't really think this was laziness per se. I think this was more just a factor of they probably knew what was happening, and they just slowed down on all new stuff. They didn't really want people to spend nanopods and everything, and I think this was a clear sign as ever the game was over. I'm not going to name drop anybody, but I think a few other OGs can attest to this. There were a handful of Battle Nations YouTubers who hated the game, wink wink, like they were diehard Battle Nations fans, but they always spoke bad against the game. They always trash talked it. And when this boss strike came out, none of them did that. All of them were so reserved and just kind of really supportive of the game, because I think all of those negative Nancy's, if you will, who always like to hate Battle Nations, especially near the end there, once they saw it was dying and that, it wasn't this immortal game, I think they all kind of realized, like, oh shoot, what have we done? And not saying like, what have we done, like, it's their fault, but more just on the simple factor of, they thought it was something that, oh, it sucks now, but it'll get better. No, it doesn't always have to, turn around and get better. Sometimes it can die, and that's unfortunately what happened here. As it says right there at the bottom, it was clear to most players that not only was this the end of Boss Strikes, but possibly the game itself was also near. So, very sad. Again, promotional unit, all 10 tiers, and then tier 10 was a boar and you could earn more of it. Here's his little symbol. Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, I immediately thought we were about to go into the promotional unit. I forgot there is no promotional unit. Sorry about that, guys. So, without further ado, let's jump into the last and final boss strike. Boss Strike 21, the last and final attack, the Battle of the Five Armies. The last and final boss strike, with every single faction previously used in this boss strike being included for one last final ride, one last final Yahoo. Every tier was either a previous edition unit or nanopods. The name of this boss strike, Battle of the Five Armies, is a reference to The Hobbit, which also has a movie, one of its movies named Battle of the Five Armies, so it's a reference to the Hobbit series. There was no promotional unit for this boss strike as well, just like the last one, and the 5 units they brought back were all considered to be fan favorites. This is what it looked like. As you can see, literally all of the factions just came back. Silverwolf, Ancient Tech, Dr. Volg, you remember his Boss Strike 10, all that cool stuff. His Ancient Tech is back, the Sovereign Navy, the General Rebel Army, the Infected, the Zombies, the Raiders, and the Critters, all of them coming in for one last boss strike. The status effects were insane, and the 5 units given out were considered fan favorites. At tier, again, either all nanopods or limited editions. The limited edition units given away was the Silverwolf Helicopter at tier 2, the Specimen Apex Stalker at tier 4, the Falcon's Nest at tier 6, the Fragmented Flying Dexter at tier 8, and the UDL Gunship at tier 10. And that will just about do it for us today, guys. Yeah, sorry to end it super depressingly there, but I kind of got in my feels just remembering the ending of the game, because especially after Boss Strike 20 and they just gave us all that stuff, we knew it was over. But Boss Strike 21 came and went, and after that the game would go on for several more months not having a boss strike, and then eventually in September of 2016 they would pull the plug, and Boss Strike would, of course, unfortunately leave us for 8 years. But here we are in the year 2024. We're coming back, and that's why we're all here, baby. I would like to thank everyone who not only kept up with the series, but kept up with this video, even if this is your first video of the Boss Strike series or just your first video by me. Thank you very much for watching all this way through. Again, we're going to have some more Battle Nations content tomorrow. It's going to be gameplay, and it's not even going to be the regular base. I have some interesting content for show you guys, some different maps of Battle Nations, some more Battle Nations gameplay with a new mic. So if that interests you and you like Battle Nations content, please consider subscribing to the channel if you are new, and please consider dropping a like on this video if you enjoyed it today. And without any further ado, guys, thank you very much for watching this video, and as always, have a great rest of your day.